You've come a long, long way. You're not alone anymore. Come sit with me and tell me your story. You've come a long way, girl. Pulled yourself out and plucked the mess. Those were some dark times back then, but it's all over now. You're not alone anymore. Come sit with me and tell me your story. This is Trucking with Tamie, where your journey's heard and your voice is free. You're not alone, come share your story with me.
Hi, before we get started, I do want to remind our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on Trucking with Tamie are those of myself and my guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station or its affiliates. This program is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional, legal, or safety advice. I'm your host, Tamie. So tonight we're going to take a step way beyond the driver's seat, and we are going to look at the bigger picture of the industry that we're all a part of. So joining me is Jennifer Morris. She is the founder of Ship Happens and a supply chain professional with over 20 years of experience. She has built a platform around breaking down logistics in a way that actually makes sense, and she has fun doing it. So, because let's be honest, drivers, brokers, shippers, they don't always see eye to eye. And a lot of that comes down to a lack of understanding on all sides, right? So, tonight we're going to have a real conversation about how this industry works, where Jen thinks the disconnect is, and what needs to change. So, Jennifer, welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. I am a huge fan of Ship Happens, and if anybody's been on my website yet, they will see I have a little section over there for Jen and her Ship Happens. I want to make sure I say that right and then say the other Ship Happens article. So you are a breath of fresh air in the trucking industry because you are very unfiltered, and this is how it is.
That's like the nicest way to say that. Honestly. No fluff. Yeah, that's a great. I'm gonna steal that actually. Yeah, I've been in this industry for a long time, and the thing is like when the men are really unfiltered, like nobody cares. Nobody even bats an eyelash at it. But the second that somebody like me comes in and has like strong opinions and like doesn't back down or wants to just tell it really plainly and not use all the jargon that's involved, it's seen as like so controversial and weird. And I'm like, I guess I'm happy to be the person pushing the boundaries, I suppose.
Yeah. And we appreciate you for doing that. But you're not just coming out here throwing out opinions from an uneducated perspective. I mean, you have years in this industry.
Yeah, I try not to think about it too much, to be honest. I'm like, wow, I'm getting old. But yeah, so I started in 2005, or 2004 actually. And I've been kind of all over the place. I've been in a large brokerage. I've been in a small brokerage. I've worked on like the customer side of things, like booking freight for customers and like direct. And it gave me a lot of like breadth of understanding of the gaps and the holes and like the things that you see and the things that people just kind of sweep under the rug and are like, we'll deal with that later. And then they just never deal with it again. So
it's my favorite two words. It's trucking.
Oh yeah, yes, that's so true. Actually, I hear that all the time. That's just the way it is. I'm like, that's a terrible reason, honestly.
So how did you make that decision to get into transportation 20 years ago?
Oh, I didn't make a decision per se. I just kind of just showed up one day. No, I was working in a city about 4-5 hours away from my parents and my family. And frankly, someone in my family got sick and I wanted to be closer to home. So I was like, and I had always wanted to move into Toronto anyways. So I was like, okay, I'll just get a job, whatever it is, and then I'll figure out what I'm doing later. Like I'll figure out where I'm headed after that. And I just happened to get a job with C.H. Robinson, and they hired me. They kind of fostered me a bit. And I actually enjoyed my time there quite a bit. In most cases, there were some things that I did not love, but they're a great training ground, to be completely honest. It is a very much like sink or swim situation, but if you're good and you have like the skills that it takes to make it in this industry, you can do quite well. And so I had a really good experience there for the majority of the time I was there. I left for a little bit to explore another industry, and then I ended up coming back. They asked me to come back, so I did for a while. And then I bounced around a little bit here and there after that.
What were your roles at C.H. Robinson?
I started out as an account manager, mostly like really low level account manager, kind of just dealing with, there were a bunch of like accounts that were kind of doing okay, but nobody was really giving them any attention. And one of them happened to be the largest grocer in Canada. So I grew that account from like $250,000 to, with my co-partner out in the West Coast, because I was on the East Coast, we grew it to like a $20 million account in like 4 years.
That gets some recognition, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing with like a company like C.H. Robinson, like, yes, it does. But then they're like, oh, you're really good at this. You should do this for the rest of your life. And you're like, and you kind of get to a point where you're like, either you're fine with that, and that's totally fine. Like there are people out there that are worker bees, and we need worker bees. That's totally fair. But I'm not that. Like I got bored pretty quickly, and like without having a lot of chance for advancement there, like it is a fairly flat organization. So it is difficult to move up there. So I just was like, for me to have more of a career, I had to leave. So that's essentially why I ended up going out after.
So I get bored easily too. I have to be stimulated. So that's kind of a job where, so as an account manager, not a lot of room for advancement, not a lot of difference in your day, doing the same thing, monotony. So where'd you move from there? I mean, what was like, okay, I need something.
I actually went and worked for one of my clients. One of my clients ended up offering me a job, and so I went to work for them for a little while. And I when I was working at C.H. Robinson, I did specialize in produce transportation. So and the joke, it's so funny because like working in produce, the joke is like, if you can move produce, you can move anything, because like
pretty much
it's literally like a product that's dying while it's on the road. So it's a little more sensitive, and there's a lot more that kind of goes into it. That and meat, I think, are like two of the like most difficult things to like know all the ins and outs of. But I ended up going and working for a fairly large produce wholesaler in Toronto. I worked at the food terminal, which is not a lot of women there. Although I did get a lot of really fresh, free produce, which was amazing. But yeah, like I worked for them for a little while. I worked for another client that I had when I was at C.H. Robinson as well. And I kind of moved around the produce industry a little bit. And then in 2016, I started my own brokerage that I still technically run today on my own. I only have like a few clients. It's more of like a boutique situation where it's like kind of set up and I know what it is. I don't really like prospect anymore on that business. I stick to prospecting for my media platform.
Wow. So all those years and then getting your own brokerage, if somebody asked you from the like say the driver's side, right? So I've been in multiple roles in the transportation industry, and I like that because I can see things from different perspectives when a situation happens. You have not been on the driver's side. You have not. So if you were to explain to somebody entering that side of it from the driver's side of it, how would you explain them it looks like?
Like going from being a driver into being in a brokerage?
Yeah, because there's such a disconnect, right? From brokerage thinking to driver and driver to brokerage.
True. And you know, like I kind of would put it back the opposite way, to be completely honest. I really wish that like it was a mandatory thing that brokers have to go on ride-alongs, because I did. When I was early on in my career, I asked one of my drivers that I got to know pretty well. I was like, "Hey, can I do a trip with you when you go to Ottawa?" Like Ottawa is only like 6 hours from Toronto. I figured it would be like a good learning experience. Could see like what it looks like, what everything happens, what it looks like to be a truck driver day to day, because I think there's a lot of assumptions on what that looks like, the things that they encounter and whatnot. And then from the other side too, it would be interesting to have drivers do a day where they sit in an office with a broker, because I think that there are a lot of terrible brokers out there. I'm going to be very frank with you. Like there are brokers out there that will take advantage of carriers, will take advantage of their shippers and book things in a way that I would never. But there are a lot of brokers out there that fight really hard for their drivers. And I think that it would be really beneficial for drivers to see that happening. I think that that would give them a more trust in their brokers to help to work together, rather than it be kind of a contentious relationship sometimes. I think it could save a lot of things and breed a lot of empathy as well.
Yeah. So brokers don't know everything that a driver goes through in a day, but on the flip side, that drivers don't understand what a broker goes through either, because there's a lot of behind the scenes things that brokers deal with. The drivers are oblivious to.
100%. I think a lot of that stuff, especially when it comes down to organizing and like having to manage timing, all of those things, a good broker, and we'll stay in the realm of talking about good brokers, because obviously there's terrible brokers that don't do any of those things. But like understanding and knowing like what the shippers are and how they work, what their requirements are, even the weird things about the dock, like, oh, try and use door 2 because door 3 is and some of these things. And even like when I'm dealing with a new receiver, like I'll Google map it and I'll like be zooming in from like from this satellite position, being like, okay, is it like weird? Is it like really great? Like, is there anywhere to park? Is there a gate that they have to go to? Is there multiple gates? Do I need to clarify? Like trying to figure it out to try and make it as easy for the driver as possible when they arrive.
I wish more brokers did that, because as a carrier, I own 3 trucks and I did that before I book loads. Because I didn't want to send my drivers somewhere, that was going to be a hazard.
Right.
I wish more brokers did that, and actually knew the locations a lot better than they do.
Well, and ask the questions too, like especially with a new receiver. Like in Canada, cannabis is legal, and that's where I'm from, is Canada. And I have done cannabis shipments in the past. And when legalization first started, like we were making deliveries direct to stores. And I was like, okay, I need to like call them and be like, call the store and be like, do you have a back door, or are we delivering this through the front? Like what are we doing here? Do I need, like, clearly I need a pallet, something like to get it around. And yeah, it was pretty crazy right at the beginning of all of that. Like there was some shipments that were going with like armed guards and stuff. It was really, really kind of a little dramatic, to be honest. But yeah, like doing that little extra work, like I'm of the thought process of like, I would rather do 2 hours of work on the front end than have to deal with a huge problem that's going to cost me 8 hours on the back end because I didn't do that due diligence up front. Because in reality, if I sent a truck to that store that didn't have a pallet jack and didn't know that they had to assist, like all of that stuff, I'm dealing with way more of a problem later on than if I had just made like a 10-minute phone call. And I think that that's something that in reality, I wish that especially young brokers that are coming into this industry, I think they just think that they pick up the phone and make some calls, book the truck, and then send off the confirmation and then never think about it again. And I'm like, yeah, in some cases, like I can do that now because I've set up some of my shipments that are regular to work like that. But I did a whole bunch of work on the front end to make sure that I know that place inside and out. I've never been to that warehouse, but I probably could walk you around that warehouse at this point, knowing everything about it.
Yeah. And that's probably the difference between a successful broker and an unsuccessful broker, to be honest.
Agreed. And the thing is with being a broker too, like you can do a lot of success with the like smile and dial and like just like the most inefficient way of doing things, in my opinion. Yeah, you can still make money that way. And I think that that's why there's still so many like not great brokers. But the thing is I don't know how sustainable that practice is. One, you're grinding yourself down because some of these people are working like crazy hours. And I don't want any part of that. But also like you're probably burning carriers on the regular, and those carriers are never going to come back to you ever.
Right.
And they'll probably start talking about you as well.
Which bad news spreads really fast.
Really, reputation is a big deal. Like
it is.
You don't want to get a bad reputation.
So at one point you had like this breaking point and this realization that these businesses are making some really bad decisions out here. And there is such a lack of education and knowledge in the supply chain. So where did, you decide to make that transition from, I'm going to be the person, I'm going to be the one that's going to go out there and I'm going to educate you?
It was actually, so like I was, when I had my brokerage, I had friends, like they would send me like referrals and stuff for either like transportation or even some small consulting. And right in the middle of COVID around 2021, one of my good friends, she referred this guy to me. This is so timely. He made really bougie hand sanitizer stands. So funny to me even now. But he was struggling with shipping them. Like he was paying like a crazy price with FedEx, UPS, didn't matter who we went to. The price was really crazy. It was almost as much as the thing cost itself. So he came to me and he was like, can you get me cheaper pricing? And I was like, yeah, but the thing that you're shipping is considered oversized. Like, so I don't know how much better I can do, but I'll see what I can do. And then after thinking about it for a few days, I called him and I was like, hey, are you cool like redesigning your whole product by chance? Because if you can make it like unscrew in the middle and fit into a square box, I can save you way more money. And he was like, actually, yeah, I can totally do that. And I was like, great, here are your new rates. And he was like, I can't believe, he's like, I was just going to stop making this product. He's like, and it's like not difficult to make. And he's like, I'm so glad that I like came across you. And so that totally got me thinking. I'm like, how many other companies out there just give up on a product or a line of things because the shipping is too expensive? And they don't know.
How many people look at a product and say, how can I change this product to make shipping more efficient? I mean, literally, how many people do you think would do that for a customer?
And this is the thing. There are some people that would, and I don't know how many. And that was the other thing. I was like, these people that have these small businesses, not a lot of them have access to a person like me. And so, or somebody that knows the industry well enough to understand that it's an oversized product, and that maybe if we were able to somehow fit it into a regular size box, because the box wasn't in the dimensions, like the space that it was taking up was the same. The dimensions were the only thing that changed. And the weight was still the same. So I think anyone that has some decent experience in this industry probably would have thought of that or said like, hey, like thoughts on your packaging. Can we look at that? And then you would have gotten there eventually. That's a question I ask all the time now. I have friends that start clothing businesses and things like that. They'll send me their packaging and I'm like, does it need to be this big? Why is this box so big? You're sending someone a bra. Why is it so big? And she's like, I want it to be a great experience. I'm like, it can be a great experience in a smaller box.
I'm calling you later.
Call me. Everyone, call me. I'll talk some sense into you. But yeah, like there's just so much out there, and it's difficult for a small business. Like that guy's job is to make random hand sanitizer stands, whatever it is. My friend's job is to like make clothing. Like, why would these people know the ins and outs of logistics, even down to things is like that are so day to day for us, like a customs broker? I thought about that right at the beginning, and I was like, why would any of my friends know what this is? So I asked my mom if she knew what it was. And she's like, I could take a guess, but I don't know. And so I realized that that's not a day-to-day thing. Like if people aren't working with cross-border freight or even marketing or something in the realm where they're touching this, they're not going to know what that thing is. And so I started going through a lot of the jargon that we use in our industry. And when I first started, I was posting on Instagram and I was doing every Wednesday, I did like Jargon Wednesdays. And it was just like putting out things like, what are Incoterms? And then defining all of those and like just a lot of things. What's a reefer? Even because like if you say reefer in Canada, you get a way different thing than a truck. So
if you say it outside of trucking in the US, you get a way different thought process.
Exactly. And so like I was like, yeah, like these things are just so common for us. And like I see it when people are doing pitches or talking to clients, new clients, they use the jargon and then you can see when someone's like, they don't understand, but they don't want to be stupid. So they don't ask. And so I started being like, okay, what are other things that will save them money too? So like things on people's invoices, like defining all of the terms on an invoice so people know what they're paying for and what they should and shouldn't be paying for, what's an added cost, what they should be asking for backup for, that kind of thing. And so like I got some good feedback and then people asked for longer form content. And so that's when I started the website in 2023. I started the website, but I started posting in 2022.
So you got the Ship Happens blog on the website, and what different parts did you? So you have a regular blog, and then you have a series that you do.
Yeah, I do have a series. Gorgeous Girls Work in Supply Chain. Yeah,
which is amazing.
The name was a joke too. It came from a meme that I had seen. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I just started? Because like also I had seen like, I forget which outlet it was, but I had seen some features and like the last like 5 were like all men. And I was like, where are all the women? I know there are women in this industry. I interact with them all the time. Where are they? And so I was like, I'll do it. I'll be the one to feature them. And so I only feature women. And the aim is every 2 weeks, like every other week, I feature a new woman on the platform. And if she touches supply chain, then she can be featured on my platform. I don't charge because some platforms do charge to have people on their website, which is so weird to me. But you do you, man. Like, you want to do that, like I guess. But it got like some pretty good responses, and like I had women like messaging me being like, I'm so excited about this. This is so cool. I think that it gives me like someone else to look up to, not just the men in my office. Like there's only men in my office, there's no women here. So like your blog is giving me other women to like look up to and see somebody else that looks like me maybe. And I was like, that's really nice. And then some of the women that I've featured as well, they're just like, oh, like one woman, she even was like, oh, my mom, I sent her this and she told me that she was so proud of me and she hasn't said that in a really long time. And I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. I love that.
Yeah. Well, we don't do Gorgeous Girls here, but we do Women in Transportation as well, because there's so many people that don't know all the different parts of it. You know, it's an amazing industry and it's so vast. There are so many moving parts to it. So 100%. You've had a really good reaction from the industry then since you started this.
I mean, mostly. I've had some not so nice comments and DMs and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, if my content's not for you, it's not for you. Like that's fine by me. Like not everybody is for everyone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like there are so many different outlets and so many different.
So we were talking about everybody else's opinion, and you said their problem is their problem, basically.
Yeah, their problem is their problem. And like I had my favorite response too, because like I've had a couple of men reach out on my DMs on LinkedIn and be like, well, why don't you feature men? Like, I would love to be featured. And I'm like, well, maybe you're just not featurable because there's a dozen other platforms that feature men all the time. Why you want to be on this one? This one's for the girls. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know,
So
it happens.
besides the actual website and the articles, you actually do a video blog as well of Ship Happens. And there's some pretty interesting stories, but there's also some very direct approaches that you take on certain topics.
I do. Yeah.
So how do you pick your topics for that? Because you have some pretty interesting ones that pop up.
Yeah. So I have like a kind of multiple different series that I do with the short form content. So I have When Ship Happens, which is every Friday. I do like a little news roundup about what's going on in the world of logistics or things that are affecting logistics, etc. And I try and kind of tell it like it's gossip, so it's not dry and boring. And then I have another one that I call Ship Talk, which is literally like me talking about crime, oddities, weird things in history that are like logistics related. So I've covered everything from like ancient Roman grain to like maple syrup heist in Canada. I did the Kit Kat heist as well. And then the most recent one that people are really obsessed with is the olive oil mafia, which is the one that I put up yesterday. And it's talks about how like a good chunk of the olive oil sold in North America is likely not olive oil or not good enough to make the grade extra virgin olive oil. So it's so interesting. And honestly, like I just start searching for like things. I use AI to do some research. And then once I get that, I like start going through all the sources and try and find all the information. And then I just write a little script about it, and that's that. But I've come across some really interesting stories. Like originally my favorite story about like logistics and like weird things was the rubber duck spill that was, I think, in the 80s or the 90s, and like it helped map currents in the ocean, which was so interesting. But now like there's so many new stories that I keep coming across. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I love this, and I'm learning so much too on top of it. And then people message me all the time. So like about like how interesting some of these stories are, and that's so cool. And somebody was like, oh, like can we get a follow-up blog about the olive oil thing? Like can we get like a more in-depth thing? And I was like, sure. So now I'm like going down that rabbit hole. But there's one I'm researching. There's a new story I'm researching. Sorry, excuse me. There's a new story that I'm researching out of Italy, and it has to do with gondolas for apples. And I'm like trying to convince them to let me come and like tour their facility. So maybe I'll go to Italy this summer.
Yeah, you are quite the international traveler. So you are everywhere, all over the time. Everywhere, all of the time. I can't even talk now. Yes. So besides the blog and the media company, you also do consulting.
Occasionally, not as much as I used to. Now I kind of, I will, depending on the company and if I think I can truly help them. If not, I'll try and use my network to get them to the right person. Like if it's procurement, I know somebody that's really good with that. If it's looking at parcel, then I know somebody there, you know, like, so I kind of try, if it's something that I really understand and have touched a lot before, then I'll definitely dive in. But if it's something where my network, because it's grown so much, if my network can really assist, then I'm happy to like pass it on to the person that makes the most sense.
So where do you like to focus most of your energies now?
So now I try and focus most of my energy on the platform, on Ship Happens, doing the content, making sure that I'm doing like reasonable content, making it relatable to people. I have like a litmus test. If I think that maybe I'm being too complicated in a blog, I send it to my mom. And then I'm like, And then I'll ask her, I'm like, do you understand what I'm saying? And she's brutally honest. And she'll be like, no, I don't understand. And so I'm like, okay, need to make it a little bit more friendly. And then I just keep going until she's like, oh yeah, I totally understand now. And I'm like, great. So I've educated you. Great. So now I can put it out to everybody else. So I want to keep focusing on that. And I want to make sure that the platform is helpful to people. And I've recently started hosting webinars with companies so that I can help with their like getting out so that their product is more clearly understandable to people. I think one of the biggest problems that I've witnessed when I started doing this kind of work is that a lot of companies in our industry, there's so much tech that has come into our industry as we need. But the problem is like the tech people don't speak transportation and the transportation people don't speak tech. And like, then they're trying to communicate and they're trying to tell us what it does. And I want to make sure that like these companies that do have some really great tech are able to like explain it to our people in a way that makes it understandable and where it can fit into somebody's business properly. So, because right now I think a lot of people are just being sold a lot of jargon
Hype.
and PR speak. Yeah. And a lot of hype that, yeah. And the thing is like the hype might be totally valid, but the thing is if people don't know how to implement something properly, then you're just going to tack on something that might be useless to you because you don't know how to use it in the proper way. And so This is where like that was one of the other areas that I was like, okay, how can I like expand additional knowledge, making sure people are understanding some of these products that they might want to buy. So that's kind of what I'm moving towards now.
You also hosted a webinar here recently that I was a member of that had women from all aspects of logistics in that. Is that something you're going to be doing more of moving forward?
Yeah. So supply chain social club and I are probably going to, we've talked about it, but we partnered on that particular event and we are looking at probably doing a women's only networking event once every quarter. I think people always say like, not always, but I get a lot of people pushing back being like, oh, like why only women? And I was like, well, unless you've been to an all women's event, you can't really understand the difference between the conversations that happen when it's all women versus when there's men in the room. And it's no shade to the men that want to be in the room. Like I appreciate the fact that there are men that are like, no, we want to be there to support you and all that stuff. That's great. But we're just not at the point right now where every woman feels comfortable sharing her feelings about the industry with men in the room.
No,
it's just a fact.
I'm part of a Midwest networking group of women that's here in the Midwest, and there are women from various different parts of the industry. And we actually had the girl that sets up the topics for each event. She makes a post afterwards talking, about who was there and then what the topic of the day was. And there have been men that have commented about, oh, those things don't exist because they haven't witnessed them or haven't been a part of like the glass ceiling or the Matilda effect.
Yes.
And that's part of the problem because, this is a safe space for women who, we are very underrepresented in this industry. And so it's a safe space for them to be with their equals and the people who understand the struggles that they face on a day-to-day basis. And while some men are very supportive, without actually living it, it's very hard for them to understand it.
100%. And I think that that's something that I still stand firm in because we're just not there. Like, I feel like people want us to be further along, which is totally fair. I was saying this on another podcast the other day that like, there is what I want our industry to be and what I'm pushing towards to make it. But there's also the reality of what it actually is right now. And the reality of what it is right now is women don't make as much as the men. There's not as many of us in this industry. I don't care how many women you see in your office. Like, that's the problem, is a lot of people go off of their anecdotal experiences of like, well, this is what I experience in a day. That's great, but that doesn't mean that's what the actual like world looks like in reality. It's kind of like when people, like, I had some really not great things happen to me in this industry. And for people to kind of say things like, oh, those things never happen. And I'm like,
I hear that.
tell that to me sitting up against the door of my hotel room trying to make sure a guy doesn't try and come into my room because he followed me back to my room. Like, that's at a conference, you know, like not just randomly, like at a conference where everybody's supposed to be being professional. Like, these things definitely happen, and pretending they don't because it makes you uncomfortable, that's a privilege because you haven't experienced it, or no one that you know has told you. And in all honesty, if men are like talking like that, it's likely someone in their life has experienced it and they don't feel comfortable to tell them. And I think that's hard. That's probably really hard for a lot of men to hear. But there are men in my life that I know that when I was working in one of my jobs, I had a bad experience and I didn't tell the manager at the time because I just didn't think that it would matter. Like, I didn't think I was like, I don't want to be gaslit into thinking this is less than what it was. Right. And I knew that that's likely the case was going to happen.
Men also have a different vision of what is acceptable behavior than women. You know, there you know, there's a line with flirting, with, you know, touching, comments, where men think that they are no big deal. To a woman that receives those comments and those gestures, it can be a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And that's where, like, to like, if you, I think what I've said to men in the past, because they're like, oh, how do I know what's acceptable? Would you do it to your buddy? Would you do it to your friend that you work in the office with? If you,
some of them would.
If you,
unfortunately.
Like, well, and like the thing is like, but like very clearly, most of the time that really like gives them an understanding. Would you call your friend babe? No, you wouldn't. Sorry. You cannot convince me that you would. And so like, and also like I understand that most of the time the intent is not malicious. But the problem is it's coming from a place that puts you in a place that it's not good. You know, like, it puts you in a mindset where if somebody calls me babe, I'm like, I'm no longer an equal in that scenario.
Right.
And so it changes the dynamic immediately. And I understand that they're not saying it to do that, but that's what happens immediately.
Yes.
And so I think that until they start realizing like your intent doesn't matter. Like, your intent 100% doesn't matter. You could be trying to be the nicest person in the world, but it's what happens after you say those words that actually matters, rather than what you wanted to communicate. Correct. And so I think that we're at a place where we're getting there. Women are getting the stage more often, but still not enough. And a lot of the times it's on women in logistics platforms or panels or something, you know, like, where I'm like, no, just put them on the other panels. They don't need to be on a women's panel. Just put them on other panels so they can talk about the stuff they do rather than being a woman.
So what do you think some of the representation issues are then?
I mean, it's people tend to hire people like them. And I think that that's something that you really need to get out of that mindset of like, first of all, it makes your organization very one note and flat and probably not very innovative. But also, if you're constantly hiring only people that look like you, you're going to have a bunch of yes people around you, and no one's ever going to tell you that you're making a wrong move. And nobody's perfect. You need people around you that are going to challenge you, challenge your views, push your company into directions that are going to make it bigger and better. And I think that sometimes that doesn't happen if everybody in the organization looks the same.
Right. So, you know, there's a difference between visibility and the progress, right? And so if you're focused just on the visibility aspect of it, different people have different strengths, and if you are going with the same clone, you're not going to be able to introduce some strengths that your organization
Correct.
might be lacking in.
100%. 100%.
So,
It's very clear that the data is very clear that companies that have women in executive positions in their companies do significantly better than their counterparts that don't. And so like it's a good business decision in reality. And I think that sometimes I get really frustrated because a lot of times people don't argue on data, they argue on their feelings. And I'm like, no, but the data shows that this is true. So
yeah.
I don't know what to say to you.
People, you're in logistics. You're supposed to be thinking logically, not emotionally here.
Oh God. Sometimes people are very emotional.
They are. And as women, I can relate to that sometimes. I react sometimes emotionally, and I have to be like, step back.
I think we all do. I think the difference is that some emotions are considered strong and other emotions are considered weak, and the feminine reactions are typically considered as weak reactions. So I think that's just more of a mindset problem.
It is. So what is something that the public, or not the public, the industry says publicly that doesn't match the reality? And this is something I think that gets touched on a lot. People say things, but behind the scenes, the reality is not the same.
Oh dear. I mean, in general, or when it comes to women?
Either. I mean, there's a lot with women. There's a lot of people that
there is.
But in
I think
general,
I'll go more general. I think in general, I think that the industry kind of presents itself like, and I'm talking about supply chain and logistics in general, kind of presents itself as like this very long-standing industry, which it is, that has it figured out. They do not. It is chaos. You peel back one layer of that onion, it's total disaster underneath. And it's because like this kind of industry doesn't stop. Like look at what we're dealing with right now. We've got this issue in the Strait of Hormuz, and that's causing a huge issue across the globe. One little thing goes wrong in our industry, and it's a huge butterfly effect all over the place. I think that the problem, and I can relate it to COVID as well, like when that happened and all of these supply chain issues started coming up, people were like, oh my God, COVID caused this. And I was like, nah, these problems were already here underneath the surface. It's just the whole industry was like a house of cards waiting for one card to be pulled out and for it to collapse. Because I wrote a blog kind of about this, about how there's all these like standard operating procedures that everybody has, and it like looks like everybody's really organized, but in reality, like those SOPs are like 14 steps long, and it's all been because those steps have been accumulated based off of like issues that happened once or twice. And so now like, oh, now you have to get Jack to sign off because somebody got mad, and oh, the client has to approve because somebody got yelled at in 2023. And like there's all these steps that have been added to make all this bureaucracy in our industry, when in reality, maybe that's not necessary, but there's no time to just sit down and break things apart and start over again. So it's a lot of like kind of trying to figure out like, if you look at a standard operating procedure that you have for something, okay, what do we definitely need to have? And I think a lot of our industry doesn't really take the time to do that. They're just like, well, this is how we've been doing it. So,
right.
Yeah.
So when you look at these companies that aren't making these changes that they need, and they're not making the real progress, but on social media, they act like they've got it all together. So we're seeing better marketing. I mean,
we are seeing excellent marketing in some cases. Yes.
There's some amazing social media marketers out there. But then once you get into the company, I mean, it's a mess.
Well, and I think that happens a lot. I am a huge preacher that silos are a major problem in most companies, that marketing works independent of operations. Operations kind of vaguely talks to logistics from time to time. Sales doesn't talk to anyone. You know, and management has this like glossy idea of what everything looks like because they get these super polished reports every week. And so in reality, though, your company, nobody's talking to each other, which is, from a social point of view, is kind of weird to me, but from a business standpoint, like that is a huge issue. Like you need to have all of these groups should be working together all the time. They should all know what's going on in each other's department. Where are the stress points? What are the things that we have to get done? Like if marketing's working on a huge like launch of like something, and there's going to be a huge thing going out, and we need to make sure that like we have our operations in order, and that logistics knows that these particular shipments should be in the warehouse by this date because we really need to make sure that this is happening. Like everybody should know about that. But more often than not, something happens with marketing, and then logistics is like surprised that they're like, all of a sudden they have to book 10 trucks when normally they're booking 2. So I think that that's where the silo problem is probably one of the biggest problems we have in this industry. And the funny part about it is, instead of encouraging people to just talk to each other, everybody's just tacking on more tech. And I'm like, yes, tech can be helpful, but like also just pick up the phone and call somebody. Yeah, communicate. Have a chat. Go for a beer even. I don't know. Like get to know your coworkers.
Come on, guys. Communication was your general ed. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody had it in high school and college. They warned you ahead of time. Communication is imperative. It's important.
100%. Yeah.
So if you, you know, there's a lot of problems in this industry, and there's a lot of solutions. People just don't like change. I mean, I hear that all the time.
That is
true.
true.
You know, one of my big things is training, and everybody's like, oh, you know, it's been this way. It's going to cost too much to fix it. And there are a lot of great solutions out there, but nobody wants to take the steps to implement change. So if you could magically wave your little wand and fix one, just pick one major issue that you see in logistics. One, you only get to pick one, maybe 2. What do you think would be the most important change to implement?
That's
I know it's
such a difficult question. Although, you know, what's funny is because I asked that on my form as well. Like, what's one thing that you'd want to change? And I'm like, oh God, that's so. I don't know. There's a couple of things. First of all, I mentioned it before, and I think that brokers should have to do a ride along with a truck driver. Yes. If you're going to be, same with dispatchers as well. Dispatchers that work in the carrier's office, I think that it is so important for people to have a really good understanding of what it's like to be on the road. And then the other thing that I would, because like I don't know, I'm just such a big proponent for truck drivers. I don't think they get the respect that they deserve. I think that they work very hard, and I think that they get a bad rap in a lot of cases. Are there bad? They do. Just like there are bad brokers out there, of course there are bad drivers, but there's a lot more good drivers than there are bad. And I think the bad ones are the ones that get the press all the time. And I wish that I wish that there was more support for truck drivers. I wish that there was more apps being designed for them, whether it be for their health, social life, because like one of the things I recognized super early in my career is some of the truck drivers just wanted to chat. Yeah. Just wanted to have a chat. And one of my favorites, he would talk to me all the time. I would talk to him at least once a week, and we'd have a good like 15-minute chat. And then at the end of the chat, he'd always be like, thanks for chatting with me. It's been really nice. And like, he came to the office one time and he's like, I really look forward to our chats every week. It's so nice. And it like makes me feel a little bit more connected. And I was like, oh, happy to. First of all, I love talking, so that wasn't a problem. But second of all, like, I think sometimes people treat drivers like they're resources instead of people. And they really need to be looking at them. These people are humans. They're doing their best. I don't think drivers want to be stuck in traffic. I don't think they want to get stuck with a flat tire or mechanical issue. Like those things happen. And it's funny because I see so much blame getting shifted all the way down to the end. And I'm just like, no, like sometimes things just,
They should have an exchange program for that, you know, where the driver can
like a
hang out.
little like a ride along program.
Yeah,
or like
I
or
think
like
it would be great.
You could call it bring your driver to work day.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of companies
so
have it
cute.
where, yeah, you know, a lot of companies have it where you train in a different department so that you can cross over if you need to, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
it's basically the same, only you're not going to be crossing over. You just have an understanding of how their job works. And I think that would help improve relationships in logistics, having that better understanding.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only other thing that I would potentially consider as well is that I do think that CDL licenses should be tested every 5 years.
Yes. And
I'm coming at, like, I'm not in a way to attack anyone, but more in a way to give people, drivers, whoever, I think that with like, because with other stuff too, but just to like eliminate any bad habits that people have. Because like, listen, I drive a car and I've developed bad habits, let's be honest, but I'm driving just a car, not 80,000 pounds worth of material with me. So I do think that for safety purposes, that could be something that would be really potentially beneficial. But from a standpoint of like actually resourcing that and then being able to do that, that's probably another story.
Drivers get complacent. They really do behind the wheel after a long time. And so I can see the benefit of doing that. A lot of carriers do, you know, work quarterly or annual check-ins with their drivers, but then you have owner operators or the smaller carriers who don't implement that. But it's check-in. I personally think a provisional driver's license for the first year, 6 months to a year, would be a great benefit. With all the new entry driver problems that we have with the not getting sufficient training. And I think a provisional license would be a great benefit to the industry as well.
That is a great idea.
Getting it implemented, however, is
same thing. Yeah.
The problem. So, you know, where are you going? What's your future plans? What's Jennifer have on her agenda?
So many things. So I am speaking at some events this year, which is really exciting. I have some partnerships that are coming up that is going to be really cool. I'm also going to start a podcast as well. So
excuse me.
Oh gosh. That was great.
Allergy season. Sorry.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I'm going to be starting a podcast this year as well. I'm going to start with a 12 episode season, I think, and see how it does. And if it does pretty decently, then I'll continue. If not, it'll just be a standalone season, you know, like one of those miniseries that Nicole Kidman does.
What format are you going to be doing? I mean, are you going to be doing like The Ship Happens or?
Yeah, so it'll be under the title When Ship Happens, and it'll be more of a tell me about the day you wanted to quit this industry and kind of get into the nitty gritty of it, like the story, then like what the person felt and how they dealt with their situation, and then what they kind of learned or took away from that. And that's kind of going to be the format.
So I'm doing what got you into it, and you're like, what's making you leave it?
Yeah. Well, because it's funny because when I went to Manifest this year, I ran into a bunch of people from CH Robinson. And so like, we were like having chit chats and stuff. And we all were talking about like the day in our career where we were like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's funny because there is a lot of what I like to refer to as boomerang people in this industry too. People that were here and then left and then like came back because they were like bored in whatever else they were trying to do. But yeah, so I do think a lot of people have those days, whether it was like a really bad shipment or you had like something bad happen at work or a bad boss or whatever it was. I just want to like show people that those days come and like people have gotten through them, no problem. And you just need to like persevere and be able to like feel your feelings too, and then get back to work, you know?
Almost like an exit interview, you know?
Yeah, kind of. Something like that.
But that is really great. Any partnerships that you can talk about, or without saying who it's with, what you're going to be doing?
I can actually say one. I'm going to be doing a webinar next week with Axio Work, which is Alibaba.com, their AI platform that helps small and medium-sized businesses kind of do a lot more work with a lot less resources. So, and I've been testing it out and it is very impressive. So I'm excited to do that. That's going to be fun.
Are you going to be posting that on your LinkedIn? Because I'm really interested in hearing more. I know we talked about it on the phone last week, and I think it's a great thing. And I'm going to be checking it out as well with what you've told me. So.
Yeah, I probably will post like the sign up either tomorrow or Friday. We'll see how that goes, but it'll be up soon because it'll be on Wednesday, early Eastern time, I think. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, so a couple more things before we close out today.
Sure.
So with your experience in logistics and with your social media platform, if there was a woman, and we'll just go with the social media, with the media platform that you have, if a woman was wanting to get into media in the transportation industry, what would be your advice to her?
Find a niche that you want to pursue, because there's so much going on in this industry. And I kind of made this mistake at the beginning of just like going everywhere, trying to cover everything. It's impossible. Find somewhere where you're like, this is my niche. It's okay to branch out from that from time to time so that you learn new things and kind of branch some of those silos together. But you don't need to go down rabbit holes of industries you don't really understand. I definitely think that the niche is very important. Like, my niche is education of small and medium-sized businesses and people in the industry wanting to understand other areas that they don't work in. That's literally where I stay. And then there's other people that do something like that, but they're like, we've got like Danielle who does freight fraud, and she learns from other people about that. So I think that there's a lot of different parts of this industry that could benefit from coverage for sure.
And what kind of income expectations could a woman expect to have in the media aspect?
I mean, it depends on your ethics of how you want to do this, right? Like, I want to maintain my control over my editorial. So for example, like, you can't buy your way onto my platform. You can be a sponsor of the platform. You can be a sponsor of the podcast. You can be a sponsor of the short videos and things like that. I'll partner with people to do explainer videos of their tech, sure. And then I also like host webinars, which I also get paid for. So, and I'll be frank, when you start, there's no money. Big zero. You need to the best place to start too in our industry is on LinkedIn. If you can develop a following on LinkedIn and expand out from that, I suggest you do that. And there's lots of platforms too that you can like pull in ideas from and things like that. So I think I'm in my third year of this, second year full time, and I would estimate I'll probably do like 50 to 75 this year if everything works out the way that I hope it does. But I also have my brokerage that I'm leaning on as well. So I wouldn't suggest like quitting your job and then starting your media platform.
Right.
Like, work on your media platform side on the side, and then move into that when you feel comfortable.
Great advice. Great advice. So, last question.
Shoot.
What do you want your impact on this industry to be? What's your mark?
I would like for women in this industry to feel like they have other women to look up to and to go to for advice, support. My goal in the long run is to build a community of women in this industry that are available to help each other, to and help recruit women into this industry as well. I would love to see that happen. I'm working on ideas of how I can make that happen, but that's what I really truly would like to push for.
That's a great impact to have. So where can they find you? I'll let you do your plugins.
Everywhere. You can find me on, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube too. And it's all various options of when ship happens. So, and my
what's your website?
My website is ship-happens.ca. It's on my LinkedIn as well. So you can find me there. And I would love if people signed up for my newsletter because I think it's pretty good. And I only send it twice a month, so it won't fill up your inbox.
She won't spam you to death.
No, I won't spam you to death.
All right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on today. It has been a pleasure talking with you. Again, everyone, if you are interested in hearing more about Ship Happens, you can search for Jennifer Morris on all the socials and ship-happens.ca for her website. Or you can go to truckinwithtamie.com, go to our Freight Minds tab, and she is on there as well. Everyone, have a great day. And thank you for listening to Trucking with Tamie.